Welcome to Zentangle Project Pack Series number 5. My name is Rick,
Hi, I'm Maria.
and the tutorials in this series can be easily watched in any order. However, we do recommend watching the introduction to Project Pack 5 first, as it explains the inspiration for Zentangle cartouches and the materials and how to get everything set up. So,
In this video, I am going to show you a wild and wonderful, unexpected border that I just didn't want you to miss this one.
so I want to point out, look at how she's doing the border like right up to the edge, to get the white of the paper, I'm guessing, right?
Right. I cut this picture in a random kind of way so that you wouldn't, in an unexpected thing, almost cartoon-like. And I wanted to follow through on that idea. So we're going to put a little border, a little aura here just to kind of set it off.
And I think you're using your blue pen on
This
this.
wonderful blue pen.
And we're using one of the sheets from the Project Pack 5.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do a curly, loopy, wonderful extravaganza here that starts and ends on a corner.
Looks like a string.
It looks like a string, and we're going to do that on all of them on the four sides. You can see that as long as I meet at the other end, it's going to be just fine. Fun stuff. Who'd have thought this would be a frame border, right? But it is a cartouche. There we go.
Fun.
So of course now we're going to aura that so we can make a sort of a borderish kind of looking thing. Is that a technical term?
Technically,
Borderish, yeah.
And I like it that this is our grandson Wyatt from a few years ago, and that he's swinging on what you could call a string, just a big one.
That's true.
Look at how different it looks just auraing that
Almost looks like
line.
a rope that's been thrown on the floor and ends up in loopy doops.
It takes on a whole different character.
So I'm just putting another little border around the picture to kind of set it off. And the rest of this is fairly simple. I used 4 different tangles one in each of these sections, but you could easily put your mac and cheese tangles or your favorite tangles that you go to. I just picked 4 and went with it, and it's simple. This is a version of crescent moon that I use often. It's kind of a fun. I'm not sure well, we never really named this, but I've used it in a few different projects.
So it's using like the radiations of the crescent moon
Right.
as a space to fill.
So I'm just going to continue to fill this whole section with these beautiful fan shapes, I think.
And adding that extra aura on the end, I think is a really great thing because it gives a set off and contrast to each of those subsequent crescent moons. So you just fill in the little nooks and crannies. A little bit of hollowbog going on there.
So that's sort of a reminiscent of Mendi tattoo, huh? Especially in the brown like this.
So in doing this behind the those very free form aurid strings, it just has this substance. It gives those strings a real substance.
And the brown is adding some drama here, which I like.
And the brown has a characteristic that's different from the other colors because the more you go over it, it changes density, so you can get darker by going over it.
And I'm doing sort of a free-form-ish Huggins here, and that's because Wyatt's name is Huggins, and I had to put one in. And I'm sorting doing a pegboard in there.
And the elemental strokes for Huggins is the orb, and then these C shapes, or parentheses shapes, that connect the orbs in a particular way.
Now I've been doing Huggins for a long time now, and I can see what should be done and what, I can see it. It's just sort of ingrained in me. We'll have to think about this as a filler here. And if you've practiced Huggins, you'll understand what I'm talking about.
And you can check out on the newsletter for a step out or on the app for a step out. And one of the secret tips, or two tips, is to do all one direction and then the other. And the other tip is to, when you're connecting the orbs, the lines never cross. So there's Huggins.
I'm going to sort of fill Huggins a little bit and, make it a little more dense.
I think you're using your black pen there, right?
Yeah.
Sort of reinforces that over and under. I like that.
And adding some black in the orbs.
That really sets it off.
It's such a simple thing to do.
And the dot in the circle is a old pattern or symbol. It's fun finding the ones you think you've all done, and then,
Yeah.
oh, no, there's another one there. I think you got them all.
So this one here is going to be sort of a lively Knightsbridge. And when you decide you're going to do a Knightsbridge in this manner, I suggest that you take one little bit of advice, that when you go to fill the black squares in, that you go to the next one, and the next one would be the one that's sharing a corner. Instead of going filling in every other square, you would go to the one that the corners touch, see? And that doesn't seem to make sense until you get to some of the more energetic, meandering Knightsbridge, where it could go either way, and you guess, and it's always wrong. It's always wrong. And then you have to take out your Bronx chair, which isn't a bad thing, but.
So one of the reasons we call this Knightsbridge is that you don't necessarily know what it's supposed to look like, and that lets you bend the lines, and so they're not, if we'd called it checkerboard or chessboard, you'd think, oh, they have to be straight and perpendicular, but when you call it Knightsbridge, which is actually from the tiles of the entryways of an apartment area in the Knightsbridge section of London. That's where we came up with this name.
Okay, I'm doing a version of a weighted printemps, which I think Martha came up with this or something. I can't remember. And she does it often in her work. But it's sort of a fun thing, and it balances really nicely with the Knightsbridge up top.
Neat. Almost like Printemps meets Diva Dance.
Or Bijou.
Or Bijou, yeah. And there's a nice contrast there too, the light and dark.
So we got our tangles in. I'm going to go in shading, and this one I was going to do the every other one just for some fun. And I just thought, you know, with Wyatt being in there, that add fun, not too much seriousness. And then I'm going in and shading behind each crescent there.
Like overlapping.
And then inside on the Knightsbridge, just all around the edges. You don't have to actually go over the black because the black doesn't get any blacker. It actually gets lighter with the pencil. And again with the Huggins.
And you can see she's laying that on really, really pretty thick there, and using the side of her pencil. So notice the low angle of the pencil to the paper. That's one of the reasons we use the short pencil, so if it were a long pencil, you couldn't let it go into the palm of your hand like she's doing.
You can see what's happening here is the blue string is going to start to pop out, whereas you were actually kind of losing it before. It'll come to the foreground.
And obviously when you're working on something where there's a lot of ink put down, you will have let it dry. And on this one, she's shading all of the tangle, but Huggins, if in other scenarios, you can shade the individual components as well. And the whole secret of shading is to leave something unshaded, so there's that nice pillowing contrast. This is a great effect.
That's pretty, huh?
Yeah, you can really see how the tortillon smooths and just fills those
makes
shapes.
it a better color.
Yeah.
Right? Nice. Just adding a little bit of white just for some highlights there.
Nice. So she's putting that the opposite side of the weighting for the most part.
And you have it. I think that was such a fun project, and Wyatt liked it too.
And yeah, so this has been absolutely a thrill to do all of these with you. And we are going to do one more video of going through all of the ones that we did and to share some of the additions that we put to them. So thanks for joining.
See you later. Bye.